Hello everyone and welcome back to another military history video of this channel. I am your host, Military History. Today, we will be discussing about one of the most well-known fighter aircraft of World War II, that being the Messerschmitt Bf-109. We will dive into the origins of the Bf-109, its specifications and technical characteristics, how it fared in testing, and the reasoning behind its eventual downfall. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. The story of the Bf-109 begins in March 1933, when the Ministry of Aviation issued a document designated LA-1432-33, which laid the foundation for the development of future German fighter aircraft. In that document, a short list of general characteristics that this aircraft should meet was given. The aircraft was to be designed as a single-seat fighter that must be able to reach speeds of at least 400 km an hour at an altitude of 6 km. In addition, that altitude had to be reached in no more than 17 minutes. The maximum service ceiling was set to 10 kilometers. The aircraft's armament was to consist of either 2 machine guns, each supplied of 1,000 rounds of ammunition, or 1 cannon, with 100 rounds of ammunition. In February 1934, this document was given to 3 aircraft manufacturers, with these being Arado Heinkel, Messerschmitt, and Focke-Wulf. While not completely clear as some sources suggest, Messerschmitt was initially not contacted but were later included in the competition. Realizing this competition as a great opportunity, Messerschmitt gathered the best team he could find, some of these including the former Arado fighter designer Walter Rethal, who became Messerschmitt's deputy, and another prominent figure, who was Robert Lusser, who took a great part in development of the Bf-108. The Bf-109 was a low-wing, all-metal construction single-seat fighter. In order to keep the production of the aircraft as simple as possible, Messerschmitt engineers decided to develop a monocoque fuselage that was divided in 2 halves. These 2 halves would be placed together and connected using simple flush rivets, creating a simple base on which the remaining components, such as the engine, wings, and flight instruments, would be installed. The central part of the fuselage was designed to be especially robust. This gave the aircraft exceptional structural integrity and also provided additional protection during crash landings. For those wondering, the fuselage and the remainder of the aircraft were covered with standard duralium skin. One of the factors that made the Bf-109 so loved was its simplistic design. This is especially true for the engine compartment, which was easily accessible by simply removing a few panels. The engine itself was mounted on 2 long Y-shaped metal bars and held in place by 2 quick-release screws. The necessary electrical wires were connected to a junction box which was placed to the rear of the engine. All parts inside the engine compartment were easily accessible and could be replaced in a short period of time if needed. The Bf-109's L-shaped fuel tank was located aft of the pilot's seat and slightly underneath it. It too had easy access by simply removing a cover located inside the center of the wing. The total fuel capacity of the Bf-109 was 250 liters. Once the Bf-109 was accepted for service, a small production run called the Bf-109B-0 was completed. It was powered by a 610 horsepower Junkers Jumo 210B engine and served mainly to finalize the later production versions. The Bf-109B-1 The Bf-109B-1 was powered by a 635 horsepower Junkers Jumo 210D engine and had a fixed-pitch 2-bladed wooden propeller. Later during the production, it would be replaced with a new all-metal 2-bladed variable pitch propeller, and the engine was equipped with a 2-stage supercharger. The maximum speed achieved with this new engine at a height of 11,000 feet was 450 km per hour. The engine's oil cooler, which was initially placed close to the radiator assembly, would later be repositioned to underneath the right wing. In regards to armament, the first series of Bf-109s were only lightly armed, with 2 7.92mm electrically primed MG-17 machine guns. While this may seem like underpowered armament, We can't forget that in the period between the two world wars, mounting larger caliber guns in fighters was a rarity. Larger calibers used at this time were usually 12.7 mm. The two machine guns were placed in the upper fuselage just forward of the cockpit. Something that I found interesting was that the port side machine gun was placed slightly more forward than the starboard side machine gun to provide more space for ammunition. The machine guns were fully synchronized and able to fire through the propellers without shredding them. In the early stages of the aircraft's production, the ammunition load only consisted of 500 rounds for each machine gun. However, this was later increased to 1,000 rounds as the war dragged on. However, the double MG-17 layout was eventually deemed somewhat weak, so Messerschmitt was instructed to increase the offensive firepower of the aircraft. However, since Messerschmitt initially did not want to add any armament in the wings, another solution was needed. The installation of a third machine gun inside the centerline of the engine block was tested, and while this would be initially adopted, this installation proved to be problematic, mostly due to overheating and jamming issues. So this machine gun was not often installed and removed from any aircraft that did have it installed. Now we move on to how the Bf-109 fared in testing. During the initial evaluation flights carried out on both the Bf-109 and the Heinkel 112, the latter was favored by many test pilots. Heinkel at the time was amongst the largest and most well-known German aviation manufacturers. It supplied the new Luftwaffe with a series of aircraft and thus was well connected to top officials in the Ministry of Aviation. Further examination of the Bf-109 showed that the aircraft had several persistent issues. The most serious problem was the Bf-109's tendency to swing to the left during landing and takeoff. Another major issue of the Bf-109 was the design of its landing gear, which was too narrow and generally weak, and this in turn would often lead to crash landings. In retrospect, these two problems would never be fully resolved. However, with sufficient training and experience, these problems could be overcome by the pilots. Other complaints included the limited visibility due to the canopy's small design, and the cockpit interior was also regarded as too cramped. The Bf-109 was also notorious for its high wing load, which was pointed out by the test pilots. During the series of test flights, the performance of these two competitors was quite similar, with some minor advantages between them. In the case of the Bf-109, it was slightly faster while the Heinkel 112 had a lower wing loading. In addition, the Heinkel 112 had a better designed and safer landing gear assembly. However, the Heinkel 112 had to be constantly modified in order to keep up with the Bf-109, and the Ministry of Aviation Commission was getting somewhat frustrated. Despite Heinkel's connections and experience in designing aircraft, the Bf-109 was simply more appealing to the Ministry of Aviation Commission, given that it was simpler, faster, and could be put into production relatively quickly. Like most weapons of war, they don't last forever and will eventually be replaced or become obsolete, and this was no exception for the Bf-109. Despite its impressive capabilities, there were eventual drawbacks to the Messerschmitt Bf-109, which ultimately led to its downfall into late World War II. Firstly, its range was limited due to fuel consumption issues, which meant that it could only stay airborne for a few hours at most before having to land for refueling. Furthermore, its vulnerability became more apparent when pitted against fighters with better protection, maneuverability, and firepower such as the American P-51 Mustang or the British Spitfires. So more than anything, it was time that eventually caught up with the Bf-109. If you stayed till the end, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments down below. Join me next time as I explore more fascinating stories from the pages of military history. This is Military History.